Hey, this is Janeen Olmos with JaneenOlmos.com. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to shine today, Varsity Podcast Squad. Is Scott Ferguson, and we're all about revolutioning the lives of our burned out heroes, our healthcare professionals, with my good friend and Rockstar coach, Janeen Olmos. She's all about being compassionate. Be compassionate with yourself, give yourself grace, love, support, and nurturing to avoid the burnout. And the plans that she can lay out for you are above reproach. So, without further ado, please sit back, listen in closely, relax, take some notes, because here comes my really good friend, Janeen Olmos. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and I have one of my favorite Kansas City Chief fans here, Miss Janeen Olmos. She's a coach, and she's really worked with women kind of in the past, but now you folks out there know, if you listen to my podcasts or my real estate agent representation, I'm big about heroes. So, I mean, if you go to palmbeachheroes.com, you know that in the South Florida, I take care of my heroes with my real estate side of the business. But this year, Janeen has decided to start using a lot of her awesome coaching talents to focus on assisting those and helping professions like therapists, social workers, pastors, priests, teachers, policemen, and women and nurses, doctors, physicians. So she helps the heroes that are out there. And since a lot of our country is still kind of in day 9,850 of quarantine, Janine really helps level up their mental side. And I cannot wait for her to drop her knowledge nuggets on all of you, the squad out there. So make sure you break out your notebooks, because this is going to be a lot of fun. And so, Janeen, please come on to the Time to Shine Today podcast and introduce yourself to the squad. But first, what emoji do you use most when you text?
I use the birthday emojis, like the birthday
Ah,
cake and the little guy blowing the, horn or whatever that thing
yeah,
is. Yeah, and the star. The star
love
has to
it.
go on
Like
with that.
you're live life like a celebration every day, and I love that.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
love it. So, what's your favorite color? Gotta ask.
Favorite color is hot pink,
Hot
fuchsia.
pink.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's kind of sexy though, right? Yeah, it looks
I
great on you.
know.
If you see this on YouTube, she's a very beautiful woman, very well put together. I'm so stoked to kind of bring you Janine's interview here. So, Janine, let's get to the origins of you. I mean, I went through your
Okay.
about Janine. You're very, very transparent in your about
Hmm.
Janine.
Yes.
From stepping in dairy poop, and she was a dairy farmer growing up, and she was very open about having a sexual compulsive behavior, which is like a lot of people would never put that about me. But I'll tell you what, when I'm looking for a coach, I want to see transparency and honesty, and thank you for putting that on there. But let's
Mhm.
get to the origins, Janine, and how you kind of started, some struggles maybe you went through and leveled up to being a top-notch, highly sought after coach.
So, as you said, I grew up on a dairy farm in Missouri, and so I came from very humble beginnings. I was working on my dad's farm from age 7 to 18, and it was hard work. Every day before and after school, I was out there taking care of those baby calves and the cows and whatever else dad needed. So, because we had to work so much, there wasn't a lot of time to talk about emotions and
Right.
feelings and how we loved each other. There was no time for that. Now, we did express anger, so I was good at that.
That's easy, right?
Yeah, that's the easy part. But I grew up like super insecure and got myself into some horrible relationships in high school. It was sexually abusive.
Sorry.
And that's kind of what both of those things contributed to my compulsive sexual behavior.
Mhm.
So thank goodness, my first husband, he got me into treatment, and it was a gift. Like, it's humiliating going to treatment for 60 days.
Sure.
But I tell you what, that's the best gift I ever allowed myself to receive,
Yay.
because those counselors there were amazing.
Good.
They gave me more information than I'd had in my entire life. And so it straightened me out. So came home, was in corporate for a while, was pretty happy with that. And then I realized that my emotional needs were not being met in corporate.
Okay.
So I went back to school, got my grad degree in my master's in counseling. And so I've been doing that for about 7 years. And luckily, I can use those skills in counseling for coaching,
Love it.
coaching in counseling are very similar, and I can go into that later. But
Sure.
yeah, so I've been doing that, and I'm also a certified resilience coach. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah,
So the what do you think then makes a great coach?
well, listening, number one. I think that makes a great therapist and a coach is you
Sure.
have to listen. You really have to understand where the client's coming from. And, that's the first step as a coach is we're assessing together with the client, where are you now and where do you want to go? We delve a little bit into the past, but not so much, not like therapy.
Sure.
It's very different, present and future. Where are we at now and where do we want to go?
Gotcha. And I love that you made the distinct difference between therapy and coaching, or because a lot of therapists, they dig in the past to pull stuff forward, but me as a coach,
Yes.
if they want to talk about their past, I will
Hmm.
talk about it with them. But listen, that the windshield is a lot bigger than the rear view window for
Right.
a reason, right? So we want to really
Yes.
push forward. I love that you made that distinction. Thank you so much for saying that. So
Hmm.
if I'm out at a networking event, Janine, and I am pressing flesh, which we do here in South Florida,
Hmm.
socially distance, of course, hand pumps more, but you know, what am I listening for that would make them a great prospect, contact, connection, or referral for Janine Olmos?
So, uh, you targeted the professions that I work with. So,
Sure.
looking for any kind of those helping professionals,
Okay.
including physicians and doctors. I worked with that clientele for about 2 years as a therapist. And holy cow, those people are so burned out because they're so driven. They're
Mm,
so driven and they love what they do, but they've gotten to a point where they don't love what they do.
sure.
So, if you're out and about and you're listening to people, you're going to be looking for those signs of burnout, which is the cynicism, not loving what they do. They've kind of lost their motivation for their work that they do. They've even maybe started to stop caring about the patient outcomes
Hmm.
and patient well-being or client well-being.
That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're really looking for those maybe anger and irritability is
Sure.
another thing. So
Sure.
there's lots of signs and symptoms you can pick up on that would be a referral for me.
How beautiful. I love that. That was great, great answer to that question because you really dialed it into burnout signs. A lot
Mhm.
of people will just say, well, anyone who's looking to level up. And that's okay that they say that, but you actually dug into the burnout. And the heroes that you're helping right now, Janine, they're going through a lot of that, right?
Yes.
Especially with the
Yes.
COVID-19 and the
Mhm.
pandemic and just anything that's going on. You and I talked
Right.
off camera or off microphone about, depression and stuff like that. A
Mhm.
lot of them are going through that. That's
Yes.
fantastic. So, what is your secret sauce, if you don't mind sharing, that when you bring somebody in and they might be a prospect or even a client to help them find their blind spot?
Um, Lots of questions, right?
Okay.
Sometimes you can hear it because, I've developed my listening skills. I look for those patterns, like what are the patterns that they're saying in their words? I look for patterns in their workplace, how they feel about it. And I look for patterns in their relationships. How do they feel about it? What's their view about it? So that's kind of what I'm looking for is the patterns that they're expressing and even the words that they use. As I mentioned, you have a lot of cynicism when you're burned out. You're very negative. You look at the world as it's coming to get me, and there ain't no way I'm getting away from it. It's everybody's out to get me, and I'm not going to have anything great looking forward
Like a
to.
victim attitude in a sense?
Exactly.
Got it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Perfectly said. Hmm.
I love it. I love it. So that's great because a lot of people don't. um, okay, so when you're starting to bring somebody in to your awesome coaching fray here, and you're going through that discovery period, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
Oh, I'm going to have to think about that one for a second. Um, well, the question I hope they ask is, how do I change? How do I get better? Is, why am I this way? Of course, I want to give them some insight as to why they're this way, which I can because, I'm all about looking at the past and
Sure.
discovering why you're the way you are, but I don't want to use it as a burden. you need to move past that and get forward to where you want to go. So that's the biggest question that I hope people
I
ask
love that
is,
you say that because people will say, well, what's your fail or, you being a coach, but like, what's expected of me, right? It's
mhm,
like,
yes,
that's what I ask my coaches. And I don't even know. It just came to the top of my head. I'm like, what do you expect me?
right.
I think it was
Hmm.
because I grew up playing sports a lot and I would always ask,
Yeah.
okay, coach, do you want this done this way? So now
Hmm.
that I have a mindset coach, a prosperity coach and stuff like that, that's one thing that I do ask. I'm happy that you answered it that way. So what keeps Janine up at night?
My dogs. We have a puppy.
Anything
So,
in the mind, anything that's going, because we as coaches,
oh
we're
yeah,
it's very hard to shut things down, especially if
right.
you're coaching people on the left coast, and I do a coaching session at 9 o'clock at night, and
Oh
my
wow.
time and a six their
Yeah.
time. So, but anything else that might like kind of keep you up
Yes.
at night?
Yes. So, pretty frequently, I wake
Hmm.
up around 3, 4 in the morning, and
Wow.
because I've had some good sleep by then, right?
Hmm.
And I just start thinking about all these ideas I can use with my clients. Oh, I can do this. I can do that. So I get excited. It's
Right,
hard to
right,
shut that off.
right. It's hard.
Um, but I do. Eventually, I'm like, hey, I need some sleep. Just shut this down, and
Chill
I'll
it
pick it
out.
back up in the morning.
No,
So
that So what is an exercise you might do to shut it down?
Um, breathing,
Yeah?
that's a good one, yeah.
Mhm.
So, sometimes I'll write it down if it's really bad.
Right.
Sometimes I'll get up and actually go into the other room and just kinda refocus myself,
Sure.
and then go back and focus on sleeping, but that's really what I do is focus on sleeping.
Any breathing patterns that you studied or that you use from anybody, or is it something that you came up with that works for you?
Definitely the deep breathing.
Mhm,
If you're in any kind of coaching or therapy world at all, you
mhm,
know that deep diaphragmatic breathing is
mm,
what's going to slow down your nervous system
sure.
and bring you back to a regulated state.
Right,
So it's emotional composure. That's the best way to stop my mind from racing, to stop my heartbeat from racing even higher, is to just diaphragmatic breathing, deep breathing, not just up here in the chest, but definitely down here in
right.
the diaphragm. And several breaths too, not
Oh,
just 1 or 2.
right, right, exactly. To change everything physiologically, breathing can be done.
Yes.
I didn't believe in it at first, but I use the Wim Hof method, which I don't know if
Oh,
yeah,
I've heard of it.
so
Mhm.
and I do it 5 mornings a week, and it is hard,
Yeah.
the 6th morning is I go to pranayama at my yoga place, and it's amazing what it does just to open up, and
Yes.
it clears your mind. I mean, and it's
Uh-huh.
a chemical balance too that
Yes.
happens with breathing, right? So if you're
Yes.
bring yourself down, I mean, that's fantastic. I love that you brought up the breathing. So, Ginny, what is the big thing that you want to accomplish? Because you've did a lot. I mean, was your family supportive when you went into the coaching therapy side of business? Or, I'm sorry, the coach.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Very supportive.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you're leveling this up. And folks, when you go to JanineOlmos.com, down in the show notes, you're going to see her website's pretty well put together. She's very very transparent, and she also kind of really breaks down what it has, but that's going to help you level up. But what is the big thing, the big thing Janine wants to accomplish?
That helping people.
Okay.
It's like they don't have to suffer alone. And because I share my story and the struggles I've been through, I'm not proud of that stuff by any means. But I also know people struggle with the same things or worse
Mhm.
things or lesser things. And if I share my story, it makes them more comfortable coming to me to get some help because they know I've been there.
I love it. And so I'm going to ask you this because you went through a lot of stuff, and you went through that would break a lot of people.
Yeah.
Who then had the biggest profound impact on your life? I know
There's
you
a
mentioned
couple.
your first ex-husband and so, or your ex-husband and
Yeah.
whatnot, but
He
like
was
is
actually a huge help to
okay,
our family. My family, strong work ethic, German, Swedish background,
right.
history, the genetics. So right there, you have resilience.
Yeah.
And they're all
Absolutely.
farmers, so you gotta be resilient if you're gonna be a farmer. So thank goodness my family gave me that, was resilience and responsibility.
Mm,
Oh my gosh, if you're not responsible, like you said earlier, you're not gonna get out of that victim mode.
I
I
love it.
had to take responsibility for myself. And so my family was a huge influence. My first husband helped my family be more expressive with our emotions and talk about things instead of keeping secrets, because we were
Right.
pretty good at that.
Aren't families?
Yes, we are. And then
Uh,
my therapists in treatment, they've been amazing.
oh, great. I love it that you bring a squad in a team and that you took responsibility. I mean, even
Mhm.
the action within responsibilities in the word itself, it's the ability to respond, right?
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. So let's get in our DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's
Okay.
go back to the 22-year-old Janeen Olmos. And I don't know if
Mhm.
it's almost at the time, but the 22-year-old Janeen.
Mhm.
What kind of knowledge nuggets are you dropping on her to help her kind of blast through, level up, shorten her learning curve?
The biggest thing is be compassionate with yourself. Huge fan of self compassion. It's one of the main keys you need to help people heal, because if you're not giving yourself grace and love and support and nurturing, you're always going to beat yourself up. You're always going to be negative. It's going to lead to depression, anxiety, burnout, whatever it is you have. So, absolutely be kind to yourself, is what
Would,
I would tell myself back then.
would she listen?
I think if I said it to her, yes. I think she'd always wanted, like, I wanted something like that back then. I wanted somebody to sit me down in a gentle way
Sure.
and say, Janine, this is what you need the most. And I think I would have listened. Would I have been known how to do it? Probably not. I would need some
I
direction.
know, right?
Right.
Exactly. That's why, get into books that are going to serve you,
Yes.
surround yourself
Yes.
with eagles that you're
Hmm.
soaring with. So,
Exactly.
how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date. How do you want Janine's dash remembered?
She was kind and compassionate.
Kind and I think your name of your company should be kind and compassionate with Janine Almost. I love it.
That's her. Yeah, but you know what? A lot of people think that, oh, she's so mushy gushy. She's going to be kind and compassionate. But you know what? I am direct and I will challenge you on your BS.
I love it.
Because if we don't do that, you're not going to heal and move forward.
If you're watching, folks, her micro expression just happened right there when she was like wanting to put the foot down. So what what do people misunderstand about you the most?
That I'm weak because I'm expressive.
Okay.
But I got to tell you, I've learned that it takes tremendous courage to be expressive
Right.
and to share my story. Like, I
Wow.
mean, how many people do you know that would be that intimate with their story and just
Right.
lay it out there?
Right, right. I felt this
So,
exact same way. Mine's unique as well. And, finally when I started to, it was, a book was written and, all kinds of stuff just started to happen once you actually get the balls to do that, which I'm
yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Hmm.
So as we wind things down here just a little bit, Janine, we like to have our level up lightning round.
Okay.
And you and I could talk 15, 20 minutes,
Okay.
about each one of these, but you got 5 seconds. You're going to
Oh,
answer them in 5 seconds with no
okay.
explanation. All of them can be answered within that time. So you're ready, sweetie?
I'm ready. Let's
All
do
right,
it.
let's level up. What is the best leveling up advice Janine's ever received?
Take chances.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Using Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. It's amazing.
I
It's been
will
such a great gift.
I'm going to ask you to like afterwards. We'll talk about that and we'll
Okay.
put that in the show notes. Thank you for saying that. So, other than JanineAlmost.com and of course,
Mhm.
TimeToShineToday.com, a shameless plug, what other website would you go to level up and get rocking
So for prospective clients,
for
is that what you
yourself?
mean? For myself. Oh, okay. So one of the great websites that is I use, and I'm trying not to focus on mental health here, but there's
Sure.
so much information out there
Hmm.
that's great. So the National Institute for Mental Health,
Okay.
which is NIMH
Yep.
dot NIH.gov. So that's one of my
Beautiful.
favorites.
Good for you. I love it. Thank you for going there and doing that. I do too. I do as well. I mean, even now
Good.
in my intake for my people, I'm basically asking them to donate now.
Oh,
to
oh, that's
the
fantastic.
mental health and also the suicide lifeline. So, because I lost my little brother's suicide, a lot of guys I
Hmm.
served with over in Iraq and Afghanistan as well. So it's very close to my heart. That's a great website to
Yeah.
go to. So, not what you're reading now, not the flavor of the month, but if I'm in my
Hmm.
doldrums, just not feeling it, you're like, Fergie, read this book. What is it?
You are a badass.
Ah, Jensen's arrow. Hear that, Jen? You're coming on in January, so you better hear. You got
That's
a fan out
exciting.
here. I love it. I love
Woo,
it.
woo.
What? So physically, and don't
Yes.
say now,
Okay.
physically, what age would you stay for the rest of your life if you can keep the wisdom you have now and continue to learn?
35.
Thank you for saying that. People are like, I'd take my bullshit. I'd be 32 all day for the rest of my
Yep.
life if I could, because
Yeah.
there's no, oh man, getting up. And if I want to go out and throw back a couple adult bevs, it was a lot easier for me to
Mhm.
function the next day, right?
Right.
So, what's your favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time and or money to?
So I'm a huge dog fan. So any
Yay!
of the dog organizations, like the rescues
Thank
here
you, thank
locally.
you, thank you. My pit bull Stitch is laying up my feet right now, thanking you. I
Oh,
rescued him as well. Thank you for saying that. All right, so our last question, you can elaborate on this one a little bit. But
okay.
what is your favorite decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
The 80s.
Yeah, big hair,
Duh.
don't care, right?
Woo.
It's so funny. Like
Yes.
the 80s, like people don't understand, like music of today. I mean, the 70s was awesome classic rock. Don't get
Uh-huh.
me wrong.
Yeah.
At night, I play the iHeartRadio 70s station, right? But like, if you want to get into me, I was born in 72. So the 80s I grew
Uh-huh.
up in. So you
Yeah.
have, like anything from the phasing out of disco, into rap,
Hmm. Hmm.
that was big. The British
Yes.
invasion, the Irish invasion with U2, British invasion with The Cure. And then you had your
Hmm.
big hair, don't care bands, like Motley Crue. I mean, it had everything in
Cinderella.
10 years.
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. That's that would be my answer as well. So, Ginny, how can we find you, hon?
Okay, so get on my website, janeenolmos.com. That's the best way to find me. You can schedule a call with me on that website. You can email me on that website. So that's the best way to find me.
I love it. I love it. And we'll put everything in the show notes for Janine. And Janine, leave us with one last knowledge nugget you want us to take with us, internalize, and take action on.
So I thought about this a little bit because you mentioned you might ask me this. And I think the biggest thing is do not settle for mediocrity, burnout, complacency. These dull your God given talents and gifts, and you're doing yourself a disservice by ignoring those. So bust out of those things
And
and
you
be
can
your
definitely
best
help them with
self.
that.
Absolutely.
In squad, we just have basically a free masterclass with my really, really good friend, Kansas City Chiefs fan,
Whoop,
Janeen
whoop.
Olmos. Love this lady. She's finding out in the corporate world her emotional needs were not being met. So she did something about it, took action. She has quite a history in her life, but she's pulled the history forward, the good little nuggets of her history forward to really help others level up. She'll tell you that a good coach is going to listen in with empathy and not just listen with her ears, but listen with her eyes as well. I mean, she loves the hero professionals. And if you are one of those hero professionals that you're struggling with a little bit of burnout, please get a hold of Time to Shine today. We will make a personal introduction to Janine. She was going to ask you to watch your patterns of negativity so you don't fall into victimhood. If you're starting to work with a coach, she's going to ask you to ask them, how can I change and what are you expecting of me? So
Mhm.
ask your coach that. She really practices emotional composure with her deep breathing exercises. And just remember, you don't have to suffer alone. People like Time to Shine today and Jean are here for you. She's going to remind you to
Yes.
be compassionate with yourself, grace, love, support, nurturing to avoid burnout. And she has
Mhm.
great steps to do that. She will be remembered with her epitaph in that little dash that she was a kind and compassionate person. And she's going to say, do not settle for mediocrity, burnout, complacency. There's ways to work around. There's ways to live a harmonic life. As we say, we
Yes.
don't like balanced life. Balance is zero. Harmony is different, where you have different pillars of your life working. And Janine can really help you put those into harmony. And Janine, you level up your health, you level up your wealth, you're a beautiful
Mhm.
person inside and out, you're transparent, you earned your varsity squad letter here, and we can't
Yay.
wait to do some collaborations and have you back again, okay?
Thank you so much for having me today.
You're very welcome, love. Chat soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter and Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.